Good morning, grade 11 students, here with this session in the Pedigree in the chapter of genetics for the week 30 in semester 3. So let's start with the question number 1. Question number 1, Yusuf, the following pedigree corresponds to a family where some members, they are affected by the color blindness. Here, they gave you the legend here, the legend that the dotted, the red ones, they are affected, and the white or the empty, they are normal. So we have two or three generations, generation 1, generation 2, and generation 3. So here we can't use the generation. You can skip it. Since we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can use the number. You can say individual 1 and 2, individual 3 and 4, usual 5 and 6. It's okay. Why? Because we don't have generation. So here we have only numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8, it's the fetus. So we are going to determine whether it's affected or normal. So we're start with the first question. They can indicate the dominant and the recessive allele justify. يعني مثل كأنه أنا عم بقول لك identify the dominant and the recessive allele. Give the symbols of each allele. 3. Specify the genotype of the members of this family. And all the members, you have to specify their genotype. And you have to say the genotype with justification. Part 4. Carry out the essential factorial analysis to predict the risk for the fetus to be blind. But هيدا الريسك شو بده يكون in the ratio form. يعني أنا هيدا ممنوع اشتغله as percentage. اشتغلته percentage بthis part هحط لك زيرو. ما بتاخد ولا علامة. ولا علامة. Even though حللها كلها صح. فمعك 100% true. But I'm asking for the ratio. And you solve it as percentage ما بتاخد ولا علامة. I need to be clear from the beginning. And you have to pay attention to this. Other note. In this part, I told you indicate the dominant and recessive allele justify. Part 2, I told you give the symbols of each allele. Sometimes, in most of the questions, this part, I'm going to delete it. I tell you indicate the dominant or identify the dominant and recessive allele. Then, moving to the third part immediately, I will go to specify the genotype of the members of this family except for the fetus. Yani, you have to give the symbols. If I didn't ask for the symbols, your responsibility or your job is to give the symbols. If you didn't do so and you use the symbols from your own, this will lead to crossing the parts 3 and 4, both of them. So pay attention to this. In this semester or in this genetics chapter, I'm going to treat you like grade 12 students. يعني ما في نص صح، ما في ربع صح. Either you get it or you don't. So here in the part 3, if I didn't mention, do you have to give the symbols or designate by symbols each of the corresponding alleles? And I told you, you have to give the genotypes, and you didn't designate by symbols each of the studied alleles. This means that the part 3 and part 4, they are eliminated. I don't know. Why did you give, what is the symbol? For example, let's say you gave N and you gave C. What is N and what is C? I don't know. So you have to pay attention to this. If I didn't ask you for the symbols, your job is to give the symbols. Mostly, I'm not going to ask about the symbols because this is your job. The symbols designate by symbols mostly, أنا يمكن ما أسألك. You have to give the symbols. So your job is to give the symbols. Also, all of the questions on the pedigree should be according to the pedigree. ما بقول اشياء من عندي، ما بخترع اشياء من عندي، وما بشرح لانه في عندي 2 parents normal, they gave a boy which is affected, so the allele of the disease is recessive with respect to the allele which is normal. طيب pedigree, I gave it to you. You have to use it. So you have to use the information provided in the pedigree by mentioning and specifying the members of the family in the pedigree. Let's move to part 1. Part 1, I'm going to indicate the dominant and the recessive alleles. Justify your answer. According to what? According to this pedigree. So we have 3, 4, 7, they are affected. They have a color blindness disease. First, I told you the way how to answer the questions. And I told you before that you can study the way and simply you can change only what? You can change only the disease or only the members. So how to determine if the disease is dominant or recessive according to the pedigree? It's very simple. You can easily use the way. that already we solved it before. Yes, Tala, what do you think? Identify the dominant and the recessive allele.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, Tala, remember we said identify. So it's at the rhyme of Wi-Fi. So we have to
justify.
excellent. So everything at the rhyme of Wi-Fi we have to justify. ممنوع نعمل أي answering without justification in this case, because this will lead to elimination of this part. إذا ما عملت justify يعني إذا قلت لي allele of the disease is dominant, allele of the normal is recessive، بس خلصت. قال لك ثانك يو يعطيك ألف عافية، زيرو، ما بتاخد ولا شيء. Yes, Tala, please.
Yes.
Can you
So
answer?
we're using N and B?
No, I didn't use any symbol.
Okay.
I want to use the dominant and the recessive only.
Oh, yes. After crossing 1 and 2, some of the descendants are blind.
Wait a second. First of all, أنا ما عندي crossing one. This is first. أنا ما عندي crossing. Second, I have to use the pedigree. I have to use the pedigree. What? You have to say individuals 1 and 2.
The normal is the dominant.
No. First of all, you have to use the pedigree. You have to use individuals 1 and 2. Who can solve this? Tala, you have to use the way that already we solved it before. Yes, Cynthia.
Okay, so individuals 1 and 2
yes
are normal.
But
they gave
excellent. Excellent. This is the way. Tala, you can use this way. So individuals 1 and 2, as Cynthia did, they are normal, but they gave birth. Yes.
To 3 and 4 that have color blindness disease.
Yes.
So the color blindness disease is masked in the parents, and it is recessive.
Blindness disease allele is masked. Allele. Don't forget the word allele.
Allele was masked in the parents, and it is recessive with respect to the dominant normal allele.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. So Tala, and individuals 1 and 2, they are normal, but they gave birth to individuals 3 and 4, which are affected by the color blindness. So the color blindness allele, it was masked in the parents. It's recessive with respect to the normal dominant allele. So this is the answer here. You have to use the pedigree. هلا بيجي حدا بيقول لي انتم عمرك عم تقلنا استاذ انه you have to use 1 1 1 2، ليه ما استعملت هون هيك ورجعت قلت هون 2 3 2 4. Here هون مهونه عليك، انا اعطيك numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6. اذا انا معطيك 1 و 2 ورجع هون انا كمان معطيك 1 و 2 و 3. Okay, this you have to use the generations. But انا معطيك هون number, it's easier for you. Okay, تعالى مش الحال؟ مش حالنا تعالى؟ Yes. Hello. It's me. سمعتني تعالى؟
مش سامعني يا أستاذ.
لا هلا سمعتك مش الحال. Okay. ماشي حالنا؟
I was saying that. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's move to part 2. Part 2 عم بقول لي give the symbols of each allele. يلا محمد حسان give the symbols of each allele. مين الدوميننت يا محمد طلع؟ محمد حسان. Hello. Okay, let's move to Yusuf and then we move back to Muhammad Hassan. Yes, Yusuf. Give the symbols of each of the studied alleles. Which one is the dominant and which one is the recessive, ya Yusuf?
Okay, let N be the symbol of normal allele, which is dominant.
Anshu, capital or small?
N capital, sorry.
N capital.
Which is dominant over the recessive allele of color blindness.
Very good, excellent. Move to the color blindness disease.
Let
هنا كده C small إذا بدك لأنه color C small.
C small be the symbol of the allele of color blindness, which is recessive with respect to the dominant normal allele.
Very good, Yusuf. Excellent, thank you. So Ali Yusuf, let N capital. عطاني N capital here for the normal since it's dominant. So normal will be N capital, and the recessive هو قال لي for the color blindness عطاني C or for the disease or for the color blindness disease. Okay, so here we gave the symbols and the symbols. Part 3, I'll specify the genotypes of the family members in this pedigree. يلا يا ندى. Individuals 3 genotype تبعوله. Individual 3.
لأنه recessive لازم يكون homozygous only يعني
Okay, first of all,
CC.
individual 3 is شو بدنا نقول? Individual 3 is
colorblind.
Colorblind.
Yes.
Okay, so
since the colorblindness allele is recessive,
yes,
then it can only be homozygous.
Very good. So the genotype.
Then the genotype is CC.
Thank you. Thank
C
you.
small, C small.
C small, C small. This is the genotype. Thank you, Nada. Let's move now to. You need the new voices here. Let's run Skyke. Individual 4. Yes, Yaran. Individual 4. Ran is out of service. Let's move to Joel. Individual 4.
The genotype of individual 4 is also CC.
Why?
Since it's expressed in the homozygous form.
Why? Because
And
the allele of disease
it's recessive.
Recessive and cannot be expressed unless in the case of homozygous. Very good. Thank you, Joel. Moving forward, I need Mahdi Hajo.
ايه استاذ.
Individual 7. Genotype.
كمان CC يا استاذ.
Why? Justify.
مثل ما قال جوال.
مثل ما قالت. قل لي شو قالت جوال.
انه هو homozygous.
ما هو هلا بالكويز الجاي مش حتعمل مثل ما قالت جوال لانه انا وعدتكم بزيروز. انا وعدتكم بزيروز وزيروز اكسترا حتكون يعني. So CC, why? Because the allele of the disease is recessive and it cannot be expressed unless in the case of homozygous. So the genotype should be CC. Okay? Let's move now to individuals 1, 2, 5, 6. 1, 2, 5, and 6. Yalla Hani, individual 1. Genotype.
Since individual 1 is normal.
Okay, a normal. يعني it should carry the allele. What? عنده الآن. 100% عنده الآن. Okay.
But it gave birth to individuals 3 and 4 which are colorblind.
Okay.
So it also should carry the allele which is coding for the color blindness.
Excellent. بس أنت نقصت فكرة صغيرة. So we do all one individual 1 is normal. So it carries the allele N. But we gave birth to individual 3 and 4 whose alleles is CC. So they should inherit allele C from each of their parents. So individual 1 should be N C. مستحيل يكون N. كان N يعني أنت غلط. مستحيل. Thank you, honey. Moving to individual 2. Yes, Lynn. Individual 2. Genotype.
ANSI.
ANSI, justify.
Because it's normal, so it has the allele N, and
yes.
And it gave birth to 3 and 4.
Yes.
That have allele CC, that have genotype CC.
So they should
carry the. It inherits C from both paternal and maternal.
Okay, that's it. So ANSI. Also for 5 and 6, command the same process. 5 and 6, both of them, they are ANSI. ليش ANSI? First of all, they are normal, but they gave birth to an affected child who is 7, so they should carry the allele C, but it was matched. So both of them, they are ANSI and ANSI. Here أنا عملت justification. أنا بالامتحان لما بدي أحل هيك exercise, I prefer to draw the pedigree on a draft paper and to work like I did, because sometimes whenever you are working on this pedigree, sometimes you will have mistakes while solving the questions or solving the pedigree to determine the genotypes. So I prefer draw the pedigree on a draft paper and do like we did now. عملنا مثل ما عملنا. حط الجينوتايبس على البيدجري وهيدول بيساعدك كثير انك تحلل البيدجري وبيساعدك حتى تعرف من وين عم يجي. هلا فور اكزامبل هلا هيدي simple pedigree. in the coming sessions, pedigrees were going to be more complicated. So this will help you a lot to determine whether the allele is dominant or recessive, and also to determine the genotypes of the members of these pedigree. Now we solved all the genotypes except for the fetus. So الفيتس ما قال لي بده الجينوتايب. هلا الفيتس قال لي carry out the essential factorial analysis to predict the risk for the fetus to be a color-blinded individual. First, before we move to the factorial analysis, I have to give you some hints related to the pedigree. Whenever I ask you to the pedigree, sometimes I will tell you to draw the pedigree. يعني أنت ترسم البedigree. ارسم البedigree is very simple. So ارسمها، أعطيها legend, and also I have to give it a title, pedigree showing the family members affected by color blindness. And the fourth step, which is an important step, you have to draw it inside a box. So أنا إذا قلت لك, for example, two individuals, Ahmed and Fatima, they got married and they gave birth to Serene, Nancy, and Mahmoud, for example. So simply you can draw the pedigree, and you can draw it using a ruler. أكيد. Using a ruler, not for the square. Using a ruler to draw these lines for the individuals and so on. So هيدا ترسمها. You have to give a legend, for example, the red one or the one that is filled is for affected, this one for normal individual. If we have normal girls or affected girls, also you have to give the legend, and also you have to give it a title and draw it inside a box. Okay? If it's given in the question, it's okay. Without a title, without a box, it's given in the question. But if I told you, you have to draw it, you have to do so. Let's move now to part 4. Carry out the essential factorial analysis. So the normal allele we said is dominant over the color blindness allele, which is recessive. This is because what? 1 and 2, they are normal, and they gave birth to individual 3 and 4, which have a color blinded disease. So the parents must be carrying the allele of disease, but it was masked by the normal allele. مثل ما قال يوسف, let n capital be the symbol of the normal allele, which is dominant over the recessive color blindness allele. Let c small be the symbol of the color blindness allele, which is recessive with respect to the normal dominant allele. هون أنا شو عملت؟ This is according to you. أنت فيك تعمل كذا individual, if they have the same genotype and the same explanation, you can work them together. أنا شو عملت؟ individual 1 and 2 and individual 5 and 6 عملتهم together like what I did. Parents 1 and 2 and 5 and 6, they are normal, but they gave birth to individual 3 and 4. 3 and 4 لمين؟ 3 and 4 لل1 and 2, 5 and 6 لل7 respectively. So these parents must be carrying the allele of the disease, but it's masked by the normal dominant allele, so they should be hybrid. Or the meaning of a hybrid, يعني هن heterozygotes. Individuals 3, 4 and 7. 3, 4 و7 كلهم كانوا affected. They are color blind, and the allele coloring coding for the color blindness is recessive. So it's only expressed in the case of homozygous. Pay attention here. I told you that the way you can study how to answer. So whenever you study how to answer the question, it will help you a lot to solve it easier and faster. So all of them, they are the same. Here, if you didn't mention they are expressed in the case of homozygous, and you didn't mention that the allele of the disease is recessive, and you gave me, if عليها علامتين, I will give you a quarter. ربع. هيدا عليها ربع to give the genotype. Giving the genotype, it has a quarter. Justifying it with the key words, disease of the allele of the disease is recessive, should be expressed in non-homozygotes, and this justification عليها 1.3. So if you didn't justify, meaning that your mark is going to be decreased over 90%. So you have to pay attention to this. And the keywords, I have to use them: homozygous, heterozygous, dominant, recessive, a pure hybrid. You can use the word that you want. Instead of homozygous, heterozygous, you can use pure or hybrid. It's up to you. Here, أنا خلصت كل الفاميلي members. Now I want to carry out the factorial analysis. بس شو قال لي بالfactorial analysis? Read the question carefully. They need carry out the essential factorial analysis to predict the risk in the ratio form. يعني أنا هون ما عندي to verify the results, to predict. يعني شو هي الريسك؟ for the fetus to be blind. بس قال لي هو شو in the ratio form. يعني إذا أنا اشتغلت percentage يعطيك ألف عافية يقول لك thank you تاخد زيرو على البورت. So I told you in the ratio form. So you have to work it in proportion. This is the job here. And proportion. So individuals 5 and 6. First of all, and the genotype CC, ID for a hint. So let's start step by step with the first part. First, in the step in the factorial analysis here, phenotype. Phenotype, both of them 5 and 6, they are normal. So male and female, both of them, they are normal. So this is the first step. مكتوب male وفيميل, مكتوب normal, crossed with normal. Crossed with another normal. Then we move to the second step, the genotype. In the genotype, what do we have? Both of them, they are heterozygous, the male and the female. So they are NC crossed with NC. This is the female. Then we move to the gametes of symbol gamma. Gamma, from now on, I'm going to remove quarter if you don't write the word gamma. Gametes of the symbol gamma. So what are the gametes? NC, we have two different alleles. So we have two different gametes, N and C. And also here in the female, we have N and C. And here in the gametes, I'm going to hot the cross. Gametes. Here we have N, here we have C, here we have N, and here we have small c. And each of them, what is the percentage? Okay? What is the percentage? Let's move now to Mirna. What is the percentage for N and C in the male and the female? Yes. Yes, Mirna? Good. Fatima Saad? Fatima Hamza? Okay, great. Yes, Nada. Thank you. Thank you, Fatima Hamza. Thank you, Fatima Saad. And thank you, Mirna. Thank you أن كنتم موجودين معنا بالسيشن اليوم. Thank you very much. So, Nada, yes.
للأن 50% والسي كمان 50%.
برافو 50% and 50% for the female.
كمان نفس الشيء.
اوكي بس هو شو قال لي بالسؤال بده يا ندى؟ بده proportion. يعني انا اذا حطيت 50%
انت عم تسأل عن البرسنتج.
شو معناتها؟ انا اخذت زيرو. اوكي؟ I know. انا اصلا سالتكم
عن البرسنتج. انت سألت عن
انا اصلا سالتكم عن البرسنتج لانه انا بدي اياكم تتذكروا ان هي proportion منا percentage. So لازم نعمل هون 1 over 2 1 over 2. So you have to focus on the question. إذا كان percentage exactly مثل ما قلت يا ندى 50% and 50%. So here we finish the gametes. Now we move to the fourth step, which is the table of cross. Table of cross. So هنرسم table of cross أكيد برسمها بالمسطرة بقلم رصاص بشكل مرتب. This is the table of cross. I have divided into male and female, and I have to divide into both. We have two different gametes, male and female. And this is the male. It has N half, and C it's half. While here in the female, also we have N, which is half, and C, which is half. So let's continue for the table of cross. N cross N with N is NN. 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, it's 1 over 4. N with C, it's NC. 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, it's 1 over 4. It's math, fractions. C with N, sure we start with the N, so it's NC, it's 1 over 4. And the last one, it's CC, it's 1 over 4. Moving now to the table of results. In the table of results, what do we have? In the table of results, we have to divide it into both genotype and phenotype. So this is the genotype, and this one is the phenotype. So in the genotype, what do we have? We have NN, which is 1 over 4, and C, it's found both 1 over 4 and 1 over 4. So NC, it's 1 over 2. And finally, we have CC, which is 1 over 4. So here, 1 over 2 plus 1 over 4, it's what? It's a 3 over 4. What? It's normal. Since the normal allele is dominant, and it can be expressed in both homozygous and heterozygous. However, 1 over 4 will be affected or colorblind individual. Okay? Colorblind. So what is the risk for the individual? They ask you for the risk. You have to write it at the end. So therefore, the risk for the fetus, to be colorblind, for the fetus is what? It's 1 over 4. To be colorblind is 1 over 4. بس أنا سألتك what is the risk to be normal? It's 3 over 4. Okay? What is the risk to be, for example, normal and homozygous? Here it is. It's 1 over 4. What is the risk to be heterozygous and normal? It's 1 over 2. So you pay attention to the given in the question and to the asked question. So here we finished everything related to the first question. We determined the pedigree. We used the pedigree. We determined how to identify the genotype as well as the dominant and recessive allele, giving the symbols for the dominant and recessive alleles, as well as identifying the different steps of the factorial analysis, starting from the phenotype, genotype, gametes, table of cross, and finally table of results. Yusuf, everything is okay till now? مش الحال?
Yes, Ustaz, but I have one question.
Yes.
لما نعمل شو اسمه in the first two questions خصوص الديزيز.
Yes.
مثلا هون كان color blindness بنحط أول كلمة.
فيك أنت for example you can use the letter that you want. يمكن أنت حر أنت بدك تستعمل كلمة Y اسمك يوسف بدك تستعمل Y for the normal. It's up to you. أنت حر.
Okay.
أنت حر بس عشرة يوسف عشرة. أنت استعملت for example هلا أنا شو استعملت؟ أخذنا الآن للنورمال أنت قلت لي وأخذنا السي small for the disease. اوكي؟ استعملتهم اول بارت وثاني بارت، جيت على الفاكتوريال اناليسيس انا اجى على بالي غير، انت استعملت للنورمال واي وللافكتد استعملت دي. منا على ذوقك، هيك ما فيك. انا either I choose from the beginning or I can't، يعني ما في كل شوي غير السيمبلز. يعني you have to start with the symbols and you have to end the question with the symbols. Okay, Yusuf?
Okay,
so this is an example about the questions. هيك ممكن انا اجيب لك exercise. اكيد بجيب لك exercise بس بكون هيك احلى شوي. Okay? Okay, so this is everything related to this session for today. So in the next session, we're going to continue with the second question. We're going to solve the second question in the second application.